Hi besties, I am Zuriyata Bashan Lashari with Corevanta. Today we should discuss about the
Blake Lively's ability to balance her career and family has become one of the most fascinating case studies in modern celebrity culture. Because in a world where Hollywood often chews up relationships, derails personal priorities, and places immense pressure on stars to choose between stardom and stability, she has crafted a narrative that suggests both are possible. And while at first glance it might seem effortless, the red carpet glamour, the flourishing career, the smiling family photos, closer inspection reveals a story of deliberate choices, sacrifices, strategies, and values that make her ability to juggle professional ambition and personal fulfillment all the more compelling. For Blake did not simply stumble into this balance by accident but consciously built it across years of navigating the cutthroat film industry while nurturing a deeply committed family life with Ryan Reynolds and their children. And the journey begins long before she became a household name. Because, even as a young actress breaking out with Gossip Girl, she spoke openly about the importance of grounding herself in real connections and not allowing the industry to dictate her worth. And that awareness laid the foundation for the way she would later structure her life. A life where film sets, premieres, and business ventures coexist alongside school runs, family vacations, and late-night parenting duties. And what's remarkable is not simply that she maintains both spheres, but that she manages to make them appear mutually reinforcing, where her experiences as a mother seem to enrich her acting and entrepreneurial pursuits, and her professional success gives her the flexibility and security to prioritize her family. Yet underneath that polished exterior lies the constant negotiation familiar to millions of working parents, the tension between deadlines and playdates, between career-defining opportunities and irreplaceable family moments. And what makes Blake's story resonate is that she never pretends these tensions don't exist. Rather, she acknowledges them, sometimes subtly through interviews, sometimes through the way she steps back from work at critical moments, making it clear that balance is not about perfection but about priorities, and those priorities shift with time, circumstance, and personal growth. And if we analyze her trajectory carefully, we see a pattern emerge. Periods of intense professional activity followed by quieter seasons where she leans into family life, and instead of trying to do everything at once, she seems to approach her life as a series of rhythms, ensuring that neither her career nor her family feels permanently neglected. A method that not only preserves her sanity but also allows each part of her life to flourish in turn. And this rhythm is visible in her filmography, where after major projects she often disappears from the screen for stretches of time, only to return with renewed focus and carefully chosen roles. And those gaps, rather than being career risks, become strategic pauses that demonstrate her refusal to sacrifice family for constant visibility. And Hollywood has noticed, because in an industry obsessed with perpetual relevance, Blake has proven that longevity can be built through selectivity and intentionality rather than non-stop output. And this is one of the key pillars of her balance. The power to say no, which may seem simple but is in fact one of the most difficult skills for an actor to master, since every role turned down might be a missed opportunity. Yet Blake has shown that passing on projects that conflict with her personal values or her family's needs has only strengthened her brand as someone who knows her worth. And beyond her acting choices, her entrepreneurial ventures, from launching lifestyle brands to stepping into fashion collaborations, illustrate another layer of her strategy. Because unlike film roles which demand long months away from home, business projects can often be structured around her schedule, giving her creative fulfillment while allowing her to remain physically present for her children. And in this way she has diversified her career not just for financial reasons but for lifestyle reasons, crafting a portfolio of work that bends to the rhythms of family life rather than dictating them. And Ryan Reynolds has been a central part of this balance, not just as her husband but as a partner equally invested in family-first living. And their relationship has become a symbol of mutual support in an industry notorious for tearing couples apart. Because while both maintain high-profile careers, they are often seen coordinating schedules, attending each other's premieres, and most importantly, alternating professional commitments so one is always anchored at home with their children. And this tag-team approach to parenting is rare in Hollywood, where egos often clash and career comes before companionship. But Blake and Ryan appear to have made a pact to prioritize each other's success in tandem with family stability. And that pact is one reason their partnership resonates so deeply with fans, because it represents not only love but teamwork, and teamwork is at the heart of any sustainable balance, especially when both partners are equally ambitious. And yet, the real genius of Blake's balancing act is not just in how she manages logistics but in how she manages perception. Because in the modern celebrity ecosystem, image is currency, and by sharing glimpses of her family life, never too much, always controlled, she reinforces her identity as not just a star but as a relatable mother and wife, bridging the gap between unattainable glamour and everyday relatability. And this curated authenticity is a delicate art form, because oversharing risks invading privacy while undersharing risks detachment. But Blake has walked this line with remarkable finesse. And as a result, she has cultivated a fan base that admires her not only for her beauty or talent but for the values she projects. Values that align with broader cultural shifts toward prioritizing family, wellness, and authenticity over mere careerism. And if we dig deeper into the mechanics of her balance, we see that it is built on 4 pillars: intentional career choices, entrepreneurial diversification, partnership with Ryan Reynolds, and mastery of public image, each pillar reinforcing the others in a feedback loop that allows her to thrive in both her private and professional roles. And intentional career choices mean she does not accept roles that would demand her absence during critical family milestones. Entrepreneurial diversification gives her creative outlets that adapt to her lifestyle. Partnership with Ryan ensures she is never alone in the struggle, and mastery of image ensures that her balance is celebrated rather than questioned by the public. And together these pillars form a framework not just for surviving in Hollywood but for redefining what success looks like, shifting it from the old model of relentless output to a new model where fulfillment is measured by harmony between work and home. And this new model has implications beyond Blake herself because she has become evolve and circumstances change, and what works one year may need to be reinvented the next. And Blake's openness about this constant recalibration is part of what makes her story so compelling, because it reminds us that balance is not a destination but a process, a dance between competing demands. And while from the outside it may look like she has mastered the art, the truth is that mastery lies in the willingness to keep adjusting, to keep making hard choices, to keep centering what matters most, and perhaps that is the deepest lesson her story offers. That balance is not about doing it all but about choosing what matters most at the right time, and letting go of the guilt that comes with imperfection. And when we analyze how she balances career and family at this stage in her life, we see a woman who has built not only a career but a framework of values. A woman who is not afraid to say no, not afraid to step back, not afraid to admit that she cannot do everything at once. And in doing so has become a more powerful role model than if she had tried to present herself as superhuman. Because the truth is that even in Hollywood, stars are human. And the ones who embrace that humanity most authentically are the ones who endure. And Blake Lively, in her balance of career and family, has shown that enduring success is not about endless work but about meaningful choices. And those choices, sometimes hard, sometimes misunderstood, are what allow her to walk the tightrope of modern celebrity without falling. And in telling the story, we are reminded that her balance is not just about her, but about a broader cultural shift where women in particular are refusing to accept the false choice between career and family, instead demanding the right to pursue both on their own terms. And Blake stands as a shining example of that revolution, inspiring not only her fans but also her peers to rethink what it means to have it all, because as she shows, having it all is not about perfection or constant presence but about alignment, integrity, and the courage to choose wisely at every crossroads. And it is that courage, above all, that defines how Blake Lively balances career and family, making her story one that will be studied, admired, and emulated for years to come as Hollywood continues to grapple with the evolving definition of success in the modern era. Blake Lively's balancing act between career and family becomes even more intriguing when examined from the perspective of longevity and legacy, because the choices she makes today are not just about immediate priorities, but about shaping the long-term narrative of her life and career. And this perspective forces us to ask, what does it mean for a Hollywood star to build a legacy while simultaneously raising children? And how does one maintain creative vitality without sacrificing the intimacy and consistency that family requires? And Blake's story provides answers through the way she structures not only her work but her entire existence around intentional integration rather than compartmentalization. because too often in Hollywood the narrative is one of separation. Career in one lane, family in another, with each constantly competing for time, attention, and energy. But Blake instead seeks to integrate the two, weaving her identity as an actress, entrepreneur, and mother into a single coherent whole, and this integration manifests in subtle yet powerful ways. For example, the way she and Ryan Reynolds frequently collaborate on projects, not necessarily always in front of the camera but behind the scenes in terms of producing, supporting, and advising, ensuring that their professional endeavors strengthen rather than fragment their partnership. And even in the way they attend public events, they often transform potentially isolating red carpet appearances into joint experiences, walking together, sharing jokes, reminding the world that their careers are not separate silos but part of a shared story. And this sense of shared story extends into how they speak about each other in interviews, where playful banter masks a deeper truth, that they are consciously constructing a public image of mutual respect and partnership, an image that reinforces not only their marriage but also their individual brands. Because in Hollywood, branding is currency, and a healthy, supportive marriage has become central to Blake's personal brand, differentiating her from peers whose narratives often center on tumultuous relationships. And this branding serves her well when negotiating future opportunities, because directors, producers, and business partners see not only an actress but a figure of stability, a quality increasingly rare and thus increasingly valuable in an industry plagued by volatility. And stability is exactly what audiences crave in uncertain times, which may explain why Blake resonates so strongly with fans across demographics. From young women looking for role models to parents searching for examples of balance. And yet behind this stability lies immense discipline, because integration is not effortless but requires constant planning, communication, and compromise. And if we look at Blake's professional calendar, it is carefully engineered to align with family rhythms. Major filming projects are often scheduled to avoid critical moments in her children's lives, and when unavoidable, she and Ryan coordinate so at least one parent remains the constant presence at home, and this coordination demands humility, because it requires two ambitious individuals to sometimes subordinate personal desires for the greater good of the family unit. A humility that is rare in an industry that feeds on ego, and yet Blake demonstrates it consistently, choosing long-term harmony over short-term gratification. And this humility may well be her greatest strength, because it allows her to see success not as a zero-sum game but as a collective achievement, where her victories are shared with her family and her family's well-being is itself a victory. And in this sense she reframes the entire narrative of work-life balance, shifting it from a story of sacrifice to a story of synergy, where each role she plays, mother, wife, actress, entrepreneur, enhances rather than diminishes the others. And this synergy is visible in her creative work as well, because her experiences as a mother have deepened her emotional range, enriching her performances with new layers of authenticity. And in interviews she has hinted that parenthood has given her greater empathy, patience, and perspective, qualities that translate into nuanced acting choices. And similarly, her entrepreneurial endeavors often reflect family-centered values, from children's nutrition to lifestyle projects aimed at wellness, revealing how her professional interests are not separate from her personal experiences but extensions of them, and this extension of personal into professional allows her to connect with audiences on a deeper level, because consumers today crave authenticity, and Blake delivers it not through manufactured relatability but through genuine alignment between her life and her work. And yet authenticity itself must be carefully managed in the age of social media, where oversharing can backfire, and this is where Blake's balance becomes almost surgical, because she offers fans enough glimpses into her family life to maintain relatability but never so much that her children's privacy is compromised. And this controlled transparency is perhaps the hardest aspect of her balancing act, because it requires constant vigilance against the temptations of publicity. And here again, she and Ryan appear united, both fiercely protective of their children's anonymity, rarely showing their faces online, a choice that signals respect for their kids' autonomy and a refusal to exploit them for brand building. And in making this choice, Blake demonstrates once again that balance is not about giving everything to everyone but about setting boundaries that preserve what matters most. And these boundaries extend beyond family into her career as well, because Blake has often spoken about refusing to accept roles that sexualize her unnecessarily or compromise her values, a stance that may have cost her opportunities in the short term but has strengthened her integrity and appeal in the long run. And this integrity is crucial in maintaining balance, because without it, the constant pull of Hollywood could erode the very foundation she has built, and integrity also plays a role in how she navigates motherhood, because she is clear that while she wants to be present for her children, she also wants them to see her pursuing her passions, believing that modeling ambition and creativity is as important as modeling nurturing and care, and in this way she resists the false dichotomy often imposed on women between being a devoted mother and a successful professional, showing instead that devotion can take many forms, including the devotion to living authentically and purposefully, and that lesson is perhaps the greatest gift she offers her daughters, a legacy of empowerment that extends far beyond her own lifetime, and when we zoom out to consider her place in Hollywood's broader cultural landscape, we see that Blake Lively is more than just an actress balancing career and family. She is part of a generational shift redefining what it means to be a woman in the public eye, a shift away from the old archetype of the sacrificial mother or the ruthless careerist toward a new archetype of the integrated woman, one who refuses to choose because she knows that choice itself is a false construct. And this archetype is not without struggle, but it is precisely in the struggle that its power lies, because it acknowledges reality while striving for transformation, and Blake embodies this transformation not as a slogan but as a lived experience, navigating the messy, imperfect, yet deeply rewarding path of integration, and in doing so she offers hope not only to women in Hollywood but to working parents everywhere, because while the specifics of her life may be unique, the principles she lives by, intentionality, partnership, boundaries, integrity, and synergy, are universally applicable. And this universality is why her story matters, because it transcends celebrity gossip to touch on deeper truths about how humans can strive for wholeness in a fragmented world. And in the end, her balancing act is not about juggling two separate spheres but about uniting them into a coherent vision of life. A vision in which career fuels family, family grounds career, and both together create a life of meaning, resilience, and joy, a vision that will continue to evolve as her children grow, as her career expands, and as the culture around her shifts, but one that will always be anchored in the same core principle. That true success is not measured by accolades or wealth but by the harmony between what you do and who you love. And it is this harmony that defines Blake Lively's unique ability to balance career and family, a harmony that has already become part of her legacy and will inspire generations long after the final credits of her last film role. Blake Lively's journey in balancing career and family reaches its most profound dimension when we explore not just the visible strategies of scheduling, boundary setting, and prioritization, but the deeper emotional and philosophical foundation that sustains her choices. Because while the world often sees the polished exterior, the red carpet glamour, the witty interviews, the carefully curated Instagram posts, what really defines her balance is the invisible interior work of aligning values, purpose, and identity across both her personal and professional life. And in this sense her story becomes not just about one woman in Hollywood, but about the universal quest for integration. A quest that resonates deeply in our fragmented modern world where work and home often pull us in opposing directions. And for Blake this quest is complicated by the fact that her work is inherently public, scrutinized at every turn by media, fans, and critics, meaning that every choice she makes as a mother, wife, or actress becomes part of a larger narrative beyond her control. And yet rather than succumbing to this external gaze, she has learned to bend it, to use the visibility of her platform as a tool to reinforce her priorities rather than undermine them. So when she appears on a late-night show making jokes about parenting with Ryan, it is not simply light entertainment but a way of normalizing the idea that parenthood and partnership are integral parts of her identity, not obstacles to her career. And when she steps out at a premiere just weeks after giving birth, it is not merely a fashion statement but a message of resilience and capability, signaling that motherhood does not erase ambition. And these gestures, whether consciously strategic or intuitively authentic, contribute to reshaping cultural expectations of women, demonstrating that one can inhabit multiple roles fully without being diminished by any of them. But beneath these public moments lies the private emotional labor that is rarely acknowledged. The late nights of exhaustion, the moments of self-doubt, the internal negotiations about guilt and presence. Because no matter how supportive a partnership may be or how disciplined a schedule, the experience of balancing career and family inevitably produces tensions, and it is in how one navigates those tensions that true balance is found. And Blake, by her own admission in interviews, does not claim to have perfected this balance but instead embraces the ongoing imperfection of it. The idea that balance is not a fixed state but a dynamic process, constantly shifting as circumstances change, and this willingness to embrace imperfection is perhaps the most radical aspect of her philosophy, because it defies the cultural myth of the perfect mother or the superwoman who does it all flawlessly, instead offering a model of grace in imperfection, where missteps and struggles are acknowledged as part of the journey. And this honesty resonates especially with her audience of women who see in her not just a star but a reflection of their own daily struggles to reconcile ambition and nurturing. And by refusing to perform perfection, Blake creates a more inclusive vision of balance, one that allows room for humanity, vulnerability, and growth is indeed the key word here, because her approach to balance is not static but evolving, shaped by the stages of her children's lives, the rhythms of her career, and the shifting priorities of her own aspirations. And this evolution reflects a deeper understanding of balance as a living practice, one that requires adaptability, self-awareness, and above all, resilience. And resilience has been a hallmark of her entire career. From her breakthrough role in Gossip Girl to her later forays into film and business, each transition marked by challenges and risks but also by her refusal to be confined to a single identity, and this refusal extends into motherhood as well, where she insists on maintaining her creative identity even while embracing the demands of parenting, showing that resilience is not just about surviving difficulty but about refusing to let any one role define you completely. And this holistic view of identity is central to her balance, because it allows her to see herself not as divided between family and career but as a whole person expressing herself through multiple interconnected roles. And this wholeness is both a source of strength and a shield against the fragmentation that so often plagues high-profile individuals. And in cultivating it, she offers a counter-narrative to the culture of burnout and division, suggesting that the key to balance lies not in perfect time management but in integrated selfhood, where every choice reflects the same core values. And these values, as evident from her public statements and actions, center on love, integrity, and intentionality. Love as the driving force behind her devotion to family, integrity as the compass guiding her professional decisions, and intentionality as the practice of aligning her daily actions with her larger vision. And together these values form the invisible scaffolding that supports her balancing act. And when we see her smiling on a red carpet or playing with her children in a candid photo, what we are really seeing is the manifestation of this deeper framework, a framework that makes balance sustainable not just in the short term but across the arc of a lifetime. And this sustainability is crucial because balance is not measured in days or weeks but in decades, in the way one looks back at the end of a career and a family journey and sees not regret but fulfillment. And Blake's conscious effort to integrate career and family is ultimately about this long view, about crafting a legacy in which her children will remember not only her presence but her passion, not only her care but her creativity. And this dual legacy is powerful because it refuses the false choice between self and others, demonstrating that by nurturing one's own gifts, one also nurtures those we love. And this lesson is perhaps the most important she imparts, both to her children and to the broader culture. That balance is not about sacrificing one dimension of life for another but about living fully in each, trusting that fullness in one sphere enriches the other. And in articulating and embodying this lesson, Blake lively transcends the label of celebrity to become a cultural figure of genuine influence, shaping not only Hollywood narratives but also the aspirations of countless individuals striving to find their own balance. And in the end, her story reminds us that balance is not a destination but a way of being, an ongoing dance between roles, responsibilities, and dreams, a dance that requires courage, vulnerability, and above all, love. And as Blake continues to evolve, taking on new roles, raising her children, and deepening her partnership with Ryan Reynolds, we can expect her balance to evolve as well, offering fresh insights and inspiration, but always rooted in the same principle, that the truest success lies in harmony between what we do and who we are. And it is this harmony that defines her as not only a successful actress and entrepreneur, but also as a woman who has managed to weave career and family into a single, radiant tapestry of meaning, resilience, and joy.